Welcome. This is the Drupal usability meeting for May 10th, 2024. I'm Benji Fisher, sharing my screen and moderating, and also here are Ofer Shal, Ralph Kohler, Simo Helston, and Scott. So we had a request to look at this issue. It is number 2503893. So it's been around for a while, since 2015, early days of Drupal 8. Regression, not possible to delete source strings in Drupal interface translation for Drupal versions greater than 7. So to start with, there's this screenshot from Drupal 7 showing that when you translate strings in the interface, you have the option to edit them, and you also have the option to delete them. And I gather that is something that's missing in versions greater than 7. So let's just see if we can find that in the admin interface. Actually, give me a second. Because, whoops. Because the navigation module was very recently committed to Drupal core as an experimental module. So let's start using that in these meetings. So let's see, configuration, regional and language, languages, user interface translation. I think that's the right screen. So I think this is a little different from the screenshot on the issue. Well, I guess it's pretty similar.
It's just a change.
What's that?
I think it's just the difference of the admin team now.
Could be. So if I spoke Spanish and thought that inicio was not the right translation for home, I could change it. But there doesn't seem to be an obvious way to delete it. I could try blanking it out. I'm not sure whether that'll take effect. Changes made in this table will not be saved until the form is submitted. So let's just try that. Oh, it seems to have saved home as an empty string rather than deleting it. So that didn't work. So yeah, there does not seem to be, oh, I guess the only other option is that I can translate it as itself. And so in a sense, it will still be translated, but it will have the English value. So any questions about this problem? Go ahead.
I almost assume that an empty string would mean that it would not try to use a translation. Just use the English because it has no translation to go to. But I'm assuming
does it list on? Does it list under the translated strings? And is that a cache issue, or is that something that it actually believes it's translated as empty?
Well, shall I try deleting it again?
Yeah, delete it, activate or switch to a page that has that language and see if where's the string? Yeah, where do we find the string?
And let me also, in a window you don't see, let me clear caches. And then I think the home breadcrumb link should be a good test as long as I'm on a Spanish page. So let me say duplicate this tab and change the language code from EN to ES. And home is untranslated, and let me try restoring it.
I think this is your admin user interface selection.
Say again?
Your user is going to have an admin interface set for English. No?
Oh, good point. So let's try.
Lots of weird settings in Drupal for setting up an individual user's translation.
Yeah, I guess I have to edit my profile. And admin pages language. So let's just go whole hog and convert it to Spanish. And the breadcrumb link is home. On the other hand, admin is also untranslated, it seems. Is there a
Admin is a
translation?
username.
Can you scan a search
You're
for
right.
all of the search for the text string of home, see how many contexts of home we have. User doesn't see the context of a translation string. Okay.
Yes, there's only one where it's the single word home. And let me try making it inicio. I bet I don't have to clear caches.
No, it's up top right now.
Right. Okay, so deleting the text and saving the form seems to have pretty much the same effect as deleting it, except that you still have this blank thing on the form.
I think the problem is that people think that T strings can be deleted, right? A user can't actually delete a T string. It's definitely a
Right.
restriction that there's no interface that makes it clear that a thing can't be removed, but you're never deleting a string. Can we manually add in a T string? Is that something we could do in Drupal 7 that we can't do here, and that's why they could delete it in 7?
That's a good question.
Or is that a contrib module that did that? No, okay. Yeah, that's also maybe validated. That's not a contrib module. It says regression.
I think that maybe in Drupal 7, maybe both, you could add translatable strings in settings.php. Does that sound familiar?
Yes.
So well, let's see what it says on the issue. Steps to reproduce, blah 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 blah. Proposed resolution, introduce delete checkbox to delete the translation. Once the checkbox is checked and the form is saved, then it will delete the string.
And there's also a delete translations button shown at the bottom as soon as one of those checkboxes is checked. That is not noticed, not mentioned.
So
in the issue summary.
you've tested the merge request?
I've just applied it right now.
Okay. So let's look at some of the recent comments. Make the status message translatable. Da, 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 da. A lot of comments about rerolling patches and stuff. I don't see any substantive comments going back to December.
Comment number 49 is the warning question.
It's the one asking for usability review. And that's from 2021. I tested this standard install with second language. I did not expect to see save translation as the button text when I'm trying to delete something. There was no confirm screen for the deletion. And after the delete operation, the message is strings have been saved. I expect a button that is clearly delete and a confirm screen, and then a confirmation telling me what I just deleted. Previous comment 47.1 points out that this deletes the string and the translation. It turns out that is how it behaves in Drupal 7, at least by my testing. This needs more work on the user experience tagging for usability review to get direction. I moved things around in the issue summary a bit for readability. So I think Scott has a good point. I mean, how do translatable strings get onto that page? They get there because somewhere in the code, it says T of home, for example.
As a context.
An optional context, yes. And you shouldn't be able to do anything in the admin UI that will completely remove the home string. I guess that's not really usability comment, but
It's perception of how the form works. There's nothing on the form that says if you empty a string, it will use the source string. There's not a clear instruction on that form that's the operation.
right. Ralph, could you share your site or share your screen?
1 second.
Yeah, so what if on Monday I decide that I don't want to translate the word home, and then on Friday I change my mind and say, yeah, actually it should be translated. Oh, and I see that Thomas Howell has joined us. Hi, Thomas.
Only problem is it's set up with a standard profile and not Umami, and therefore there aren't really any translations. But yeah, 1 second. I could share as well as. Oh, I still have to add a user.
There's no way on this screen to add a new string to be translated. Don't know whether that was possible in Drupal 7. I kind of think that
I
was
think it's a
something.
contrib module.
Okay.
String
posted a
overrides.
link.
You could do that in string overrides, couldn't you?
String overrides in settings.php.
In module string overrides.
A string overrides module. Okay.
Admin.
Mhm. So configuration, region and language, interface translation. And
Yeah, 1 second. I just add 1 or 2. Cube. I just added 2 strings.
Yep.
It's not correct in German, but anyway, just for demonstrational purposes.
right. Okay, so I check the box and I get, this is the message we saw before. Warning us that the changes won't be saved unless we submit the form. Oh, and there are two submit buttons, save translations and delete translations. That's interesting. So what would happen if I deleted this one? And is that the correct German?
Typen. Add an N.
Add an N. Okay. Oh. So what's the expectation here if I click save translations? That it saves this first one and doesn't do anything to the second one? Whereas if I click delete translations, it would delete the second and not save the first.
That would be a data loss.
I'd expect it to delete the second one.
Your audio is very scratchy. Did you say either button should delete the second one? Or if you type it into the chat, I'll read it into the.
He thumbed up it.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. Thomas, go ahead.
When I see this, I don't have any expectations because I find that the action is talking about the form, and yet it says save translations. So to me, it looks like it's talking about something different than what I would be expecting. Like I would not expect a delete translations button at all. I would have expected a save this form or ignore, like cancel this form. The save and delete translations, I don't know why you'd pick a button that says delete then. Like it would, if I was picking delete translations, then I would think that rather than having a delete column, I would have a column that would say selected or something along those lines. The same with save, because then that, to me, that would say the action save translation is acting on whatever rows I chose. But the way it is now is highly confused for me.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Go ahead, Scott.
To be positive, if the delete translation button was in line with the third column, that would keep your sense of what you're doing there flowing. I hate the fact that there's two buttons.
Okay. So you don't like having two buttons, but if there are going to be two buttons, let's align this one with
Align the action for the user at least.
Got it. Ralph, go ahead.
Just one thought, why not go simply with a pattern used on the content page with that bulk action list at the bottom with less actions available? For example, you have, instead of a column for delete, you simply would have a column for the checkbox on the left side, and then you decide the action either save or delete. That way it would be clear.
So this interface,
Yeah.
excuse me. I think the only available action would be delete.
And save.
Okay, so that's right. I never know what save content is supposed to do on this form. I
True.
know what delete content is
It
going to
updates the
do.
publishing flag usually. It's sort of one of the shortcuts people use it for.
Okay. I'll have to try that. Okay, so I think we have consensus that the two submit buttons are not really a good idea. Perhaps we should change the label of the submit button, but whatever it says on the form, we should do when it's submitted. So let's just see what happens. So I'm going to guess that when I click save translations, the change I made here will be saved and nothing will happen here. And sure enough, that's what happened. And then if I were to change this and click to delete on this one, delete translations will delete the contact form and not save the typo that I introduced. Now, the question is that I raised a few minutes ago, a few days ago, the client comes and says, no, that's not what we wanted. You misunderstood us. Bring it back. Because clients are always saying that, right? How do I restore it? So I think that the two submit buttons were in response to a suggestion from Quiet One here. Like this paragraph. I did not expect to see save translation as the button text when trying to delete something. I expect a button that is clearly a delete and a confirm screen, and then a confirmation telling me what I just deleted. So that was only partially implemented, but go ahead. Someone wanted to say something?
All right, I think I was rumbling. I am looking at the code. It does delete the actual storage item. So that means there's something in Drupal that will be able to rescan code for strings at some point, but there's no available clear way for a user to rescan all strings.
Okay, so I remember correctly, the way that works is that when you visit a page where it would be translated, that is when it gets added to the translation page. So it was comment type, and what was the thing that I deleted again? I suppose I can.
So when we go back to home, since we're on a page that has it, it should never go away. Home should not go away then. Or the next time you reload the page, home would be there instantly again.
All right, so let's try home. And Ralph, what's German for home?
Heimat, but that's not the correct. It is also, home is also used in German in that context. So
Let me just do my standard fake translation.
yeah.
So I do that.
Or you could, use Startseite. That could also work.
Oh. Well, I don't know
One
how to
second,
spell.
I'll edit for you.
Right. And then let's see, how can I get a language switcher? I haven't enabled the language switcher block.
Structure blocks.
No.
Language switcher into the header or into the primary menu.
Oh, I don't care.
Okay, I just add it to the header.
Okay, start site, is that how you've translated it now?
Yeah, Startseite.
Okay.
I've added the language switcher.
Okay.
And saved.
Boy, is that ugly. Okay, but it's usable. It's usable. So if we delete this, don't get a confirm button, that's quite one requested. It's gone from there. But now if I reload my German page, and then reload this, yes, it comes back. Which has the same effect as emptying out the text field and saving the form. The only difference is that it doesn't show up on this form until you visit a page where it would be translated. I think this is a great big won't fix. Go ahead, Scott.
I think it should be clear translation. The column should, if it's going to keep a checkbox, make it clear translation and provide the instruction around the fact that an empty translation will just be not used. Should be fixed, but the instruction should be clarified.
Okay, so if I have start site, sorry for my pronunciation, in here, there should be a button over here with a JavaScript action that has the effect of clearing this text.
Yeah.
Are you suggesting that the
Well, the
help
same thing,
text
but-
be on the button or have it once for the entire form?
On the button. So like it is right now, that if it's to clear, like if you checked it and you hit save, it would clear the string and instructions around the general instruction for a user that emptying the string.
Oh,
That's
so
not-
you're not suggesting a JavaScript form. You're suggesting that if I were to click
so it's-
here,
No, I guess JavaScript could be the result, but yeah, somebody has to save the string still, of course. JavaScript, yes, that would be fun, of course. But it would have to degrade. No, it would have to degrade. Doesn't matter, right? Not just JavaScript, it'd have to degrade. Unless the column was added in by JavaScript.
okay. Often a text field will have a little X icon that clears out the text. Does that require JavaScript?
So sorry, again.
You mean a
Um,
clear button?
Yes, a clear button. And in the chat, Simo says that an extra input in each line is not nice for keyboard navigation. And I agree with that, and that aligns with my suggestion that we have a clear button inside the text box rather than a button or a check mark that takes effect when we submit the form. I mean, that's a pretty common pattern, isn't it? To have the clear button inside the text field. Go ahead, Ralph.
In regards to the clear button, Project Browser has implemented a clear button recently, and that is also covering exactly Simo's point with extra input each line, because in that solution, a follow-up, that clear button was excluded from keyboard navigation, but it's still keyboard accessible, and that way it covers both ends. And the idea was basically to add that functionality that is exclusively at the moment for Project Browser, also for Core in general, because, for example, all the filter fields could use a clear button, as well as, yeah, in that case, it would make sense as well.
Okay, so that's something that's not standard in Drupal core, but might soon become standard.
It would be a good idea, at least from my
Yeah.
point of view.
So we have a lot of options to consider. One is, as I said, a great big won't fix. Just keep the current behavior, and someone can double or triple click inside the box, or someone can use keyboard navigation to get there, in which case the entire text is selected by default, and then delete it. So we can keep the current behavior. We can keep the current merge request with the 2 form submit buttons. We could go back to an earlier form of the merge request where there was a single form submit button and perhaps update the text on that. Scott, do you still want your suggestion of having the checkbox that clears out the text without deleting the storage config?
Yeah, I think that's valid. Because it reduces the need for 2 buttons. The user knows that it's going to clear out the information, and they'll save the form and whatever other items they may have updated as well.
And perhaps change the text from delete to clear,
Yes, yes.
and 1 or 2 submit buttons.
1 button, there should not be 2 submit buttons. It makes no sense because we're just looking, if a user has, I don't know how many items this will page to, maybe 100, right? Like if a user has 80 items on the page and they've changed a bunch of things and want to clear out one thing, they just want to process the whole form. They don't want to go back in and refill in all the information at that point.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think I think the 2 submit buttons are just very confusing. So I'm in favor of current behavior. Scott is in favor of changing the delete column to a clear column and going back to a single submit button. Other opinions? Oh, and Aaron McHale has joined us too. Aaron, do you want us to get you caught up on the discussion? Don't hear anything from Aaron. He says in chat he's okay for a bit. Any other options people want to suggest other than those 2? I don't. Then let's take a quick vote. So I'm in favor of the current behavior. Who agrees with that? I get a thumbs up from Simo. And that's it. Okay, and who's in favor of Scott's proposal? Simo briefly raised his hand. Was that intended to be a thumbs up? Scott, you're raising your hand. Is that supposed to be a thumbs up, or do you want to say
I'm voting
something?
for myself.
Okay. Yeah, there's often confusion in Zoom between the raised hand and thumbs up. And we have a lot of people abstaining. So what do we need to figure out to come to a decision on this?
Clarify what the user's doing on the page and what they should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing. And how to make sure they know what they're doing at that point.
So Ralph, Thomas, can you give an opinion here? What I guess Offer has left us.
I don't have, like, the form just is confusing to me, so I'm just kind of generally not happy with this page right now, so I apologize.
Well, we also have the current behavior. Is that more or less confusing, or is it just the same?
The current behavior, I think it's slightly less confusing, but it yeah, I apologize.
Okay, Ralph, go ahead.
Uh, I'm neither 100% sure if your suggestion or Scott's suggestion is the preferable one for me. With your suggestion, the current state is just missing basically the unspoken or implied option to simply manually clear a field and save. So, but on the other hand, I'm not sure if adding the checkbox and the clear option both has, I'm not sure. Maybe, yeah, the clear button is, but also could be cumbersome to go through every field that way. Non-solution is so far standing out from my perspective.
So I would not object to adding some help text to this table. We might add it here, although the column header is maybe not the best place for it.
Table caption, maybe?
That would be at the bottom of the page, bottom of the table,
Depends on the
right?
CSS. Placement, caption placement depends on CSS.
Okay. I was also thinking that some help text on this select list might be the best way to hint it, to say that if the second column is empty, then the string is not translated, something along those lines. Okay, well, if we don't have consensus, we do have consensus on a few things, that having the two submit buttons is a bad idea. And I think we also have consensus that the current behavior where something gets deleted until you visit a page where it would show up doesn't make any sense at all. Like, do we have consensus on those two things?
I think so, yes.
Okay, and a thumbs up from Thomas. Okay, so we could leave it at that. We could say, if we're going to do anything, go back to a single submit button and change it from a delete column to a clear column. That takes effect when you save the translations or when you submit the form. And just say that we're undecided on whether to do that or simply close the issue as a won't fix. And if that's all we have consensus on, that's all we have consensus on.
I think the mention that if we're closing up, to open up a follow-up issue to enhance the user help text.
Right, or that could be the only change as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
You know, instead of closing it as won't fix, we could repurpose it to do that. Either one is okay, as far as I'm concerned. Oh, I did just get back from DrupalCon, and I'd like to mention that Ralph was thanked twice by Christina Chumias for his work on the navigation module. She had a long list of contributors. I think Ralph was the only one who was listed twice on that list. Which is probably just an editing mistake, but Ralph was also thanked by the people working on the Project Browser initiative. So you weren't there in Portland, but your name did come up, Ralph.
Oh, cool.
And actually, I think several of us from the usability meetings were on that list of users that Christina was thanking. But you're actually one of the co-maintainers of the Contrib Project Browser module. Am I remembering that correctly?
You don't remember it correctly. I'm not. I'm just leaving comments there.
Okay.
Certainly your comments are helpful wherever you're living.
Yes. So okay, it's a little more than 10 minutes left in the hour, but I'm Jeff. and I don't think that we need to run out the clock. So does anyone else have something they'd like to say? Go ahead, Ralph.
Just one thought in regards of the help text.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm missing it, but to clearly state that an empty translation field means that basically the source string is shown. That might be also useful to add here to clarify it.
Yeah, and I didn't suggest any specific text, but I was thinking of adding the help text here on the drop down for translated and untranslated strings. So if we somehow make clear that this is an untranslated string because there's nothing in this text box, I think this would be a reasonable place to put it. What do you think of that placement?
It's in the filter, which is a details element. So it's an instruction within the detail, not with this for the form.
The filter is a details element? I
sorry,
thought this
you're
is a
looking at-
select list.
No, sorry, I mean like the parent wrapper. The parent item
Oh.
is a details element. So we're giving the instruction within the detail end, not the form. Okay. Place it outside of the filter. That way, below the filter and above the actual table. That way, one, it's always visible, separate from what is at the top, and right. It's outside of the details element, top of the form.
Okay, so
Weighted in between.
I guess you're saying that since it applies to both the meaning of this filter and for the action that the user can take, it should not be potentially hidden in the details element. Okay. Any other comments? Okay, and does anyone want to leave comment on the issue? If no one else wants to do it, I think I can manage that.
I can put something together.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Good. I'll enjoy the 9 minutes left in the hour, and I'll be back next week. Hope you can make it.
Go get some sleep. Have fun.
Thank you.
Sleep well, Benji.
Take care.
And a
Thanks,
nice
everyone.
weekend, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.